Hello, my name is Federica Compagno and I am a psychologist and a cognitive behavioral psychotherapist. I work in Italy, in Palermo, at the Istituto Tolman, which is one of the partners of the Behave project. As some of you already know, I was one among the teachers of the first course, which was held in Palermo, together with my colleagues Nicola Lo Savio, Antonella Chifari and Gianluca Merlo. As you may remember, we pointed out that the target of the first course belonged to three main areas, specifically social, emotional, and behavioral difficulties, applied behavior analysis, and behavioral assessment. During the first course, we went in detail through all theoretical aspects, giving you also the opportunity to practice yourself. In this video, we will recap some of the concepts of the first course, focusing our attention on behavioral assessment. To fulfill this aim, we will start with a real case carrying out all the steps that will lead in the next video to insert case data in the application. As first step, I just would like to start by reminding you what ABA means. We will use the knowledge of basic science called behavior analysis, and we will apply it. We will do it on the basis of an internal coherence between theory and application, and we will use the measures both to describe the target behavior and to determine if our intervention has produced a change or not. In fact, every decision will be always based on measured data. You will see how all will be applied not to any possible behavior, but to a socially significant behaviors that has immediate importance to the subject. Please also bear in mind that the object of our intervention is not only behavior, but consists of behavior and its functional relationship with the environment. I would like to bring to your attention that all aspects I've just mentioned refers to the 7 dimensions of ABA. I won't discuss these concepts in detail as they have been analyzed thoroughly during the first course. After this introduction, we are ready to go deeper, so let's do it. The process that goes from the identification of the target behavior to the intervention proceeds along 4 logical steps, which are identifying the challenging behavior and describing it, collecting data, analyze information to form a hypothesis about the function of the behavior, and then plan the intervention. The steps will be carried out through the Behave application. In this video, we will examine the first 2 points. What about the target behavior? Generally speaking, the object of the intervention is a behavior that may impact directly the quality of life of a person who emits it and people who belong to the same context of life. The behavior we are referring is typically one that hinders learning, socialization, or that can be in a way harmful for the individual himself or others. In general, this may be a behavior considered problematic due to an excess or a deficit in one or more dimensions between frequency, intensity, duration, and so on. Another typical case in when the target behavior is a dangerous one, namely a behavior which mustn't be issued even once. In this video, we consider a real case scenario about a 9-year-old boy who attends the elementary school in Italy. His story is hard and consists of physical and emotional abuse. More detail will be provided in the next video. In this moment, what you need to know is that there was an urgent request for intervention because this boy was aggressive both in the family context and in the school context. Here we focus our attention on the school intervention request. The child has been described as aggressive both physically and verbally, by his teachers and classmates. They say, for example, that he often hit classmates or cursing them. They also report that he disrespects classroom rules, as it's hard to manage his behavior because it does not follow the instruction provided by the teachers. In general, the situation appears more complicated during the transition from one subject to another. However, although not completely, during the class lesson, the frequency of aggressive behavior dropped. As you may imagine, this situation made the socialization of child difficult and also hindered his learning as well as being dangerous for teacher and classmates. As you know, the way to proceed is to start from the initial request for help to identify and describe one or more target behaviors. It's necessary to follow two different paths closely connected. First is to try to identify a target behavior and describe it based on its topography. It's important that you bear in mind that a function can only be detected after a topography has been defined. Before a behavior be subjected to analysis, it must be defined in an objective and concise manner. What is important is to get a description that lets you know exactly what to observe. Namely, that allows you to translate theoretical concept and label into variables. Variables must be detectable and measurable, so there must be no doubt about their meaning and what they refer to. As a general concept, the description of topography is a description of the form that the behavior assumes, so an accurate and complete description needs to be clear and unambiguous. The initial description with respect of the child's behavior is made through a generic label. For instance, the child shows aggressive behavior and does not follow rules. In this case, we have just identified two operational forms, which are the following. He said bad words, and he make use of physical objects to injure his classmates and or his teachers. All behaviors can be clearly observed and measured. Once a topographic form has been identified and defined, the following step is to make a decision on how to collect data. In other words, how to measure a behavior. Therefore, let's discuss about the second step. In applied behavior analysis, decisions are taken on the evidence shown by data. It's an evidence-based practice. Before the beginning of the intervention, it is of fundamental importance to create a baseline which determines the current level of the target behavior. Measuring the target behavior during the intervention allows practitioner to collect data and understand if the intervention done is effective and if it's produced a change or not. How a behavior can be measured? In general, ongoing behavior can be measured as temporal locus, temporal extent, or repeatability. Therefore, we must choose the best measurement type suitable for the target behavior we identified. In such case, target behavior has a precise begin and end point, which appears with high but not excessive rate. So, the most appropriate variable appears to be the number of behavior occurrences. In other words, the most appropriate way to collect data is via frequency measurement. From the interview with the teachers, emerged that the target behaviors occurred generally during the transition from one subject to another. This is a very important information to define how and when to observe the behavior. Please bear in mind that with frequency we don't mean just to count the number of time a behavior is emitted, but instead the relationship between the number of time in the unit of time. For the specific case under analysis, we have chosen a reference time of 5 minutes since the transition began. However, this is not all. In addition, we have also to define how the behavior is recorded. Namely, a behavior can be observed and measured through a continuous recording or a sampling technique. In this case, the observation time is short and the teacher is not busy with teaching. This means that there is a possibility of careful dedicating to observation. As a consequence, a continuous recording approach has been chosen. All parameters chosen, together with the target behavior, will be inputs in the application before the observation begins. In the next video, Antonella Chifari and Gianluca Merlo will show you how to do it in practice. Once behavior is defined in an objective and measurable way, and once a measure is chosen, the last thing to consider before the baseline phase is the functional relationship between the behavior and its controlling variable. There will be a guide for the intervention. Indeed, the functional relationship allows us, once data is collected, to identify what should be done to achieve a significant change. This is the purpose of a functional assessment. Let's talk about it. With functional assessment, we mean the full range of strategies used to identify the antecedents and consequences that control problem behavior. In practical terms, this means that whenever the behavior is observed, it's necessary to write down everything that happened before and after the target behavior is issued. To do this, we suggest to use an ABC observation form each time the target behavior is issued. The information obtained helps to determine prior the development of an intervention, an hypothesis of the function of the problematic behavior on one end, and on the other end, the environmental events or stimuli that increase or reduce the probability that problematic behavior will occur. To conclude, all steps I have discussed in this video are necessary to help choosing the most suitable and effective intervention. In the next video, my colleagues Antonella Chifari and Gianluca Merlo will introduce you on the following steps by starting from the application. Thank you for watching the video and I hope you have enjoyed it.